guys, it's Annie Margarita Yang back with another video for you today. Today is Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. I just want to start off the video with a response to a comment that I got on last night's video from Jerson O'Dear 1470. I've been unemployed for 2 weeks, but tomorrow I have an interview. All the videos helped me in this time I was unemployed. And I just want to say thank you so much for leaving a comment, because actually last night when I was recording it at 10 p.m., of course I was exhausted. I've been working all day, but I was like, I still have to show up. You know, people are expecting me to show up and share more information. And my husband was like, you know, you're already doing enough and you're not getting paid to do these videos. You're doing it for free. And I was telling him, you know, I feel a really deep sense of obligation and duty. For some reason, I just feel that sense of obligation to show up. And the reason I feel this is because, listen, these videos are probably getting only 100, 150 views a pop. So it's really like, compared to bigger channels that have a lot more of a following, it's actually very small. But I told him, I don't actually know who's watching. Like, for all you know, it could be somebody who's been unemployed for 2 months, 3 months, and they keep watching these videos every day, every time I post a new one, and they probably don't leave a comment, so I never hear from them. I don't even know anything about these people who are watching. But for all you know, it is because I showed up and I said something, and it made them feel more motivated and inspired to keep going and to continue to take action, no matter how shitty they feel. So that's why I feel like a really big sense of obligation and duty to keep showing up. So even if I'm really tired and it's 10 p.m., I've had a long day doing my own work, I still feel like I have to show up for these videos to give you the information. So thank you for leaving a comment. And I'm so glad that you've only been unemployed for 2 weeks and you already have an interview tomorrow. So not tomorrow, it's already today. So I hope everything goes well for you. Today's video is about why job security is and always was a lie. And it's gonna be a really long one. It's a long discussion on this. I got a message from someone on Signal. So thank you for people who actually do reach out to me on Signal. This was a message from someone on Signal. I'm not gonna say the name because that's the whole point of messaging me privately, but I will read a part of the comment that I got, and then I'll respond to this. So it says, I'm in a bit of a predicament where the small company I work for has been bought out by a bigger company. We'll still be a team that will fill in for the empty department in the region. It's in a transitioning phase. By the end of next month, it'll be our last day as the old company. I'm really scared of the new shift in the culture and my job security. Any tips to help ease my mind or what I should prepare for? So yeah, I can answer this question. Any tips to ease my mind or what I should prepare for? It's going to be a 3-part answer. So for the first part, I'm going to explain why you always worked for yourself. You never worked for someone else. It's a different mindset shift. The second one is, what is job security really? So that should also help you ease your mind. And then the third part is some more practical advice that you can do. Okay, so number 1, you always worked for yourself. You were always the CEO and the CFO of your own company. Now you're a one-man company, but you always did work for yourself. Even if you are a full-time employee and you think you're working for the man, working for someone else for 40 hours a week, you always worked for yourself. It was just simply a different way of saying it, but you didn't realize it. So what we have is the job market is actually a marketplace. It is a marketplace where someone buys, which is the employer, and someone sells. It's almost like if you go into any marketplace these days, you go into the store, you're the customer, and then the person selling to you is the vendor, right? So everything is a buy and sell transaction. You always worked for yourself. And the reason I say this is because when you actually think about it, you chose to sell your time, okay? You sold your time to one vendor, right? Not vendor. You're the vendor. You are the vendor in this case, okay? You sold your time to one customer. That customer is your employer. It's called your employer, but in reality, I see that person as your customer, okay? And you sold it for 40 hours of your time for a set pay. It could be $50,000, it could be $70,000 a year. I don't know what it is, but you sold it to one for a set pay, okay? Think about it in that way. Just let that sink in. You never, ever worked for anyone else. You always worked for yourself. You just chose to sell your time to one customer, that much time for that much money. You are the CEO of your own household, all right? You get to dictate what you do with your life. And then in terms of your household finances, you are the CFO. You choose how you make the money and you choose how you spend the money. CEO and CFO is just a greater version, for a company of what is on a micro scale here as one person. You're both the CEO and the CFO in one person, okay? So there's that. You always worked for yourself. There's no such thing as I worked for someone else. That's just our culture. But when you actually look at it objectively and not just simply listening and believing what you've been told since you were a child about going to college and then getting a good job after and something secure, but when you actually look at this situation objectively, you still work for yourself. All right, so let's take away that. There's no such thing as job security, okay? And then the second part of this answer is, now that you understand the first part, how can you choose to sell your time? Now, I know not everyone wants to quote unquote start their own business, be an entrepreneur, be your own boss, okay? I'm not going to push that. That's only like 10% of the population, and I know a lot of people just want a job. That's why I'm here to sell people a job. I sell you guys what you want. You want a job? Okay, I'll sell you how to get a job, right? There are people out there who are more like me. We want multiple sources of income because actually that is the ultimate form of security. Think about what security really is. There's no such thing as job security. Like what I just said, you sold it to one person. Job security never existed. It was what is it? It's one of those like societal constructs that actually just exist in your mind. It's not like an actual thing. It's something that was made up. It's a concept. It's just like how racism is a concept. Race in general is a social construct. It's the same thing. Job security in and of itself is a social construct. I actually argue that what you think of as security isn't actually security. What you instead did is you did the easier thing. You chose to work a full-time job and sell your time to one customer. That's convenience. What you got was not security, what you got was convenience, because when you work for one person, you know how to do a set amount of duties and you know exactly how much time you're working, and then you know exactly when you're getting paid, right? You got convenience. You didn't actually get security. Security is actually in the form of when you have multiple sources of income coming in, that every last one of those income sources would have to dry up before you lose all of your income. Then that's the ultimate security. Having one job, one customer is not security ever, no matter what they want to tell you, okay? Like, let me tell you, when I was working in Texas, I had 5 part-time jobs. Is it convenient? No. It would be more convenient to have one full-time job, but I had 5 part-time jobs. I worked 7 days a week. And I actually argue that that was more secure than having one full-time job, because every single one of those people who employed me on a part-time basis would have to fire me before I lose every source of income. So while, we look at what the media is spouting, like, oh, look how bad it is that people have to work 2 part-time jobs, as if like it was a bad thing. Oh, the economy is so bad that people are not landing a full-time job. Instead, they have to work 2 part-time jobs or 3 part-time jobs to make ends meet, to pay their bills. And like, I actually never saw that as a bad thing, but that's our culture in general sees it as a bad thing. And what I want you to do is, what I'm about to tell you is actually going to help you flip your mind about this in a whole new way of seeing it, so that you won't feel the anxiety. So my goal here right now is to make you feel no fear. Let's get rid of the fear, the anxiety, and the possible future desperation that you're going to have. Let me tell you the story about my mom. I'm gonna tell you the story about my mom, then the story about her landlord, then the story about this Chinese lady that sold garbage bags to my ex-employer. And then I'm gonna tell you the story of the guy on the intersection by where I live who sells flowers. All right. So, security is when you have so many customers that every last customer would have to stop buying from you before you lose your income and you say, that's it. I have no more money coming in and I need to give up. I need to call it quits. I need to find something else to do. Now, I've stated in the past that I grew up in a poor Chinese immigrant family, but it actually, and I still say this on podcasts, but actually, I didn't find out until my mid-20s. So like, I would say maybe after I even like moved to Boston, then moved to, after I moved from New York City to Texas, then I moved to Boston. Like even after all of that time, it wasn't until after that I realized actually my mom made a lot of money. My mom is not low income, but I didn't know that, right? Because of the way she spent her money and the way my dad and my mom were always just like, when I asked them for something, they were just like, no. And then like it got to the point when I was 18, I was just like, I'm never asking my parents for money ever. So I never asked them for money as an adult. So I never really did understand how much money that my mom made because she never spent it. So because of her lifestyle and the way she dresses and everything, I was just like, oh, my parents must be so poor because they're still not homeowners and all this stuff. But actually, get this. There was a time when I was a teenager. I didn't find this to my 20s. So in my teenage years, my mom bought water bottles of, those disposable plastic bottles of water from Costco, a case of 24. She would buy cases upon cases of water from Costco. And then she would stand on a really busy intersection in Brooklyn, New York. And then she would just hold up the bottle of water and she'd go, ice cold water, $1 a bottle. And it's not the most prestigious way to make money. But then I found out that she sold 100,000 bottles of ice cold water in a summer. So she did that for several summers. Like that's just a summer, okay? $100,000 a summer. And you can imagine she didn't buy it for $1 each at Costco. She probably bought like that at that time was probably like $4. I don't know, right? But that was very profitable. And if she really wanted to, I don't know what she did the rest of the year. I was always in school, so I really didn't know what my mom did for work. If she really wanted to, she didn't have to work the rest of the year. Like she could have just worked the summer, and then she could have just said, I don't want to work the fall, winter, or spring. I just want to stay home and do nothing, and next summer I'll sell more water. She could have done that. Like that's enough to pay the bills and raise the family, honestly. Then later, after she did that, she was just like, as much as she loved the money that was coming in, she was getting sunburned. So it didn't matter how much sunblock she was putting on, she was getting like sunburned all throughout the summer. And Asians, we hate getting sunburned. We hate dark skin. So she's like, I don't want to do this work. So then the next thing she did was she got a food stand. That's also not prestigious at all. It's not prestigious, right? We look at people who sell like food in those food carts in the streets of New York City, and you're like, oh wow, these jobs are like done by immigrants. But actually they're raking in the dough. You guys have no idea how much money they're making. They're making way more than you are working at your full-time job. I swear. My mom set up a food cart when I was, I think, in my junior year of high school, and the first week she started her food cart, She put it in Chinatown. She was selling this traditionally made Chinese candy, and it's like very labor intensive, but it's so cheap to make. It's literally flour and sugar, well, melted sugar, so pretty much like a syrupy version of sugar. It's literally like those two things and peanuts. It is so cheap to make. But she was selling it for like $6 a box, $10 if you buy two boxes, right? In cash. And in her first week, she made $10,000. $10,000 selling boxes of handmade candy on the street. Like, she literally made the candy in front of you, and sold it. Lots of tourists ate it up, you know, like, oh wow, we're in Chinatown. We're here to buy traditional Chinese candy, and post it on social media. Like literally, if you think about it, what she earned in a month, so like in four weeks of selling candy, she's earning like, if the average, you know, median household income is 40K, or the average person is making 40K in the United States. Here in Boston, that's an entry-level job, but for the rest of America, it's like, wow, I would love to have 40K. Like, my mom was basically earning in 1 month what someone else would spend like a whole year trying to earn, right? And then like, but that, she didn't like that either, because apparently she was getting a lot of parking tickets, and the police constantly harassed her with more and more parking tickets. So she stopped doing that. So now what she does is like, she sells a product. I won't tell you what product, because then you'll identify her, right? But then what she does is she sells a product in black neighborhoods around Brooklyn. She goes door to door selling this product, and she goes $5 for one pack, and then $10 for 3. Guys, what she does is so profitable, and she has so many customers buying $5 at a time. $10. Oh, only $5? Here you go, $5. Oh, only $10 here. Take out a $10 bill. She makes $200,000 a year selling a $5 product. Like, imagine how many customers who buy a $5 product would have to fire her before she goes out of business. She's not going to go out of business. Like, every last one of those customers would have to say, you know what? We don't want what you're buying, before she loses every form of income, right? So think about this. What is job security really? You have no job security when you work for one person. The only reason you believe that you have job security is because you've been told since you were young, oh, job security means to work for one person and you get a steady and secure paycheck. But there was really not ever any certainty in life. And I just wanted to share more stories that are not my mom, because I don't want people to think like, oh, well, that's your mom, and Annie Margarita Yang is the daughter, so of course Annie Margarita Yang is going to be successful because she's the daughter of someone who's like that. I don't want you guys to think that, because like, my mom is nothing special. She's not special. She just is someone who works hard. Like, she grew up in China as a farmer, had no access to running water, had no access to even simple things that you guys have access to, like cookies. Like, she would literally dream of stumbling upon cookies, and then in her dream she would put them under her pillow, and then she would wake up and go like, where's my cookies? Because they didn't have cookies in China when she was growing up. No access to running water. She had to draw her water from a well, and then she never got an education beyond 6th grade. So I'm sharing the story of someone who's not as educated as most of the people watching, who does not speak English language as her native language. Her English is very simple, but it's simply enough to sell you a product. That's the level of her English. It's enough to sell you a product, right? But beyond that, I mean, you guys are much smarter than my mom. The only thing my mom has going for her is her hustle. She's very persistent, and she doesn't take no for an answer. She has a much better attitude. And so she's earned exponentially much more money than my father, who used to work for the MTA and who had that full-time job and has multiple college degrees. I say multiple because he got an associate's degree in China, then he got a bachelor's degree in China, then he came here to the United States, and then he got an associate's degree from Kingsborough Community College. So, you know, my mom, who by all means on paper is less bless everything that my dad actually makes exponentially more money than my father. And she's the one who paid all the bills for our family for decades. Okay, so the next story is actually the story of her landlord. Her landlord is someone like just very similar to her. So what he did was he sold $5 knockoff DVDs. So this was back in the 90s and the 2000s before streaming was a thing. We have this whole community of Chinese immigrants in New York City that want access to Chinese TV shows, Chinese movies, and we want to watch these things, but it's just not available because it's not available on the internet for you to stream. So what he did was, and it's also like not imported and sold at stores either, right? So what he did was he burned those movies to DVDs and he would sell them for $5 a pop, right? So just like my mom. This guy sold so many DVDs one by one, right? in 8th Avenue, in Chinatown in Manhattan, and in Flushing in Queens. And he was also extremely frugal. He saved his money, right? He sold so many that he managed to buy a townhouse in Brooklyn, New York for $800,000 in cash. And then he spent a couple $100,000 in renovating the property and splitting the townhouse into 4 multifamily units. Okay? And then after splitting it into 4 multifamily units, he lives in one of those units. He rents out another unit to my mom, and then he rents out the other 2 units to other renters as well, so that it brings him income without having to work extra. This is like unfathomable. These are stories that you don't hear in the media, right? These are people who are not doing prestigious work, but they have more job security than you. They make more money than you, but they don't get the spotlight. They were never talked about. So that's the story of the landlord. Then you think about like, so there was this, at the hardware store where I used to work in Brooklyn, we had a supplier for garbage bags. So in New York City, there is certain rules for trash. Trash needs to be in black bags, and then I think paper needed to be in not white, but clear, no colored bags. And then I think the plastic needs to be put in blue bags, like these giant blue garbage bags. I think it's a really like New York City phenomenon, because I don't see, when I was in Texas, I didn't see that. And here in Boston, what clear bags, what blue bags, it's just not a thing. But in New York City, it's a thing. And so every time my boss would need to order garbage bags, because we're a hardware store, so we have customers needing to buy garbage bags for their property management and for their apartment buildings and stuff like that to dispose of trash. He would just call up this phone number. Hi, I would like to place an order for like 10 boxes of garbage bags, blah, 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 And she's like, okay, I'll be right there. And then like later in the afternoon, this Chinese woman in her van would just like, in the back of her van, take out like the number of boxes of garbage bags that we order and go like, here you go. And then she would handwrite this invoice on one of those like pre-made invoice templates that you can buy from the dollar store, and so it doesn't even have her like official name on it. It just says like 10 garbage bags, this much money, and then she goes like, can I get the check? Like this is just some like rinky-dink operation, so there's nothing prestigious about that, but I bet she's earning money, because we all need those garbage bags in New York City. So it's rinky-dink, but I think the reason my boss bought from her is because she can charge a lower price for the bags versus a big wholesale supplier that's like a lot more professional and could deliver it in a big truck. Like, I think the reason she could charge less than her competitor is simply because she probably stored those garbage bags in her basement. And then whenever she got a phone call from somebody like my boss, she's like, I'm there. And then she just like puts it in her van, and then she just drives to drop it off. I think that's probably why she can charge a lower price than all the other companies. And then there's, I don't know about you, but near where I live, there's this guy who keeps selling flowers. So I've lived here since 2020, we're in 2024. So it's been like 4 years, right? He's selling flowers on that intersection every single day. Like he's he's never not there. And I gotta say, I don't know how much money he makes, but if he's not making any money, he would have quit doing that a long time ago. You know, like he would have stopped doing that a long time ago if it wasn't generating any money for him. The only reason he most likely shows up still day after day with bouquets of flowers in his hand is because there are people, whenever they're waiting at the stoplight for a very long time and he comes up with, you know, with his flowers, people are most likely buying from him. And even if, let's say a bouquet of flowers costs, I don't know, $13 cash, right? Even if it costs like $13 cash, if he sold even just one bouquet of flowers per hour during his time there, he would be earning more than a minimum wage worker, right? So he actually has more security than a minimum wage worker, and this gig is actually much better than earning minimum wage at McDonald's or whatever, because if he sold two, let's say he sold 3 an hour, I mean, that's a pretty nice life that he's made for himself, and he doesn't have to pay any rent because he's literally selling it under the bridge or at the stoplight. And he's probably, I'll be very honest, not declaring his income to Uncle Sam. But anyway, you know, I think all of these stories of what I shared with you, of having multiple sources of income and how multiple customers would have to fire you before you go out of business, is actually a lot more secure than having one full-time job. And so I hope that can help ease your anxiety, because a lot of people say, oh, business is so risky, so risky, I'm so scared. I'm not asking you to start a business, I'm not going to push anyone to start a business, but I just want to change this mindset. It's actually riskier to have one customer than it is to have 100 customers. And when you have a job, you really only have one customer. So what people are actually doing is very risky, but they don't realize it because they've been told over and over again that it's not. So what can you do about this? This is part 3. What can you do about this? So think, you know, you can prepare ahead of time. So there's 2 sides to this equation, right? There's the income side and then there's the expense side. The income side of it is like, how do you start generating multiple sources of income? Think about this. So you have a few options. You can do the full-time job. You still have the full-time job. So you can add a part-time job. Do you want to get like just a part-time job for the weekend, right? Just to supplement that. So then if you do lose your full-time job, hey, at least I still have some part-time income coming in to help offset some of my bills, and I also have an emergency fund, so while I have the part-time job to help pay some of those bills during the period of full-time unemployment, it's not eating through the savings so quickly to the point where I'll be desperate, and so I actually can not feel so desperate when I'm on a job search for another full-time job. You have that option. You have another option to do a side hustle instead of a full-time job plus part-time job, so you can do the full-time plus side hustle instead. I think a lot of people, they think like, I mean, they're the first idea that comes to their mind for side hustle, I think, is Uber or Lyft or Uber Eats or something like that. But actually, like, I think it's so much better for you to start a side hustle that relates more to your skill set. So like for Allison, who keeps commenting on my videos, for example, her best side hustle is bookkeeping, right? Because she does bookkeeping for her full-time job, and then she can do a bookkeeping side hustle for smaller clients who don't have enough money to pay for full-time, but could pay her for 3 hours of work every month, right? Like that's a better side hustle. Think about a side hustle that's not controlled by corporate. So Uber, Lyft, they set their own rates. They determine the rates that they're going to pay you, and then they determine who they're going to give that to, right? If there's like 100 drivers in the area, their algorithm determines who to give it to. But instead, if you start a side hustle that's related more to your skills and your experience, what you already do, then you set the rate. You know, you set the rate. So that's a lot better than having a corporation set the rate for you. Especially because, like, let me give you an example. So I'm a trustee for my HOA right now. So I handle all the financials for the HOA, and I look at the bills that come in. And we just started the new year, and we have this pest control company. They come once a month to fill in the bait stations for the mouse traps. and then they just check the other stuff. Like they just check if there's any pest activity in the building, and then they bill us $128 a month for that service. They're probably here for only 15 minutes. I swear their job of like, oh, here's a bait station, and then fill it with more poisonous stuff, right? Pouring more poison into the box is just like, how much time does that take? I think it's a 10-minute job, and they're billing $128 just to come out to the property for 10 minutes. Like they raise the price every year. The price was $128, but this time I just got the bill for January, and the bill says $133. I was like, what? They didn't notify me a price increase. You know what they did? They did $128, and then they did a plus $5 fuel surcharge, which they never charged in prior years. So you might as well just say that the new price is $133, right? Like, but all companies have been doing this. Cleaning companies, we have a cleaning company that comes once a week, and every year during January, they raise the price again. They'll raise the cleaning by another $3, $4 a week. They do that every single year. I've looked going 5 years back, right? So when you have something like this, you set your own price. It's a lot better than having someone else dictate the price. So think about what things you can do where you can set your own price. Think about what people need. Ideally, it would be related to your existing skill set, but if not, if you're in Canada, there's a lot of snow. Like where I live in Boston, one of the biggest things we're struggling right now is we can't find anybody to plow our driveway. We have this really long driveway that stretches from the street to the very back of the building, and we've been struggling. Like I called 13 companies and I couldn't get a good quote. They said $10,000 for the season. Literally to have a pickup truck with a plow attachment come and just do a straight like to the very back of the building, they want $10,000 for 4 months. Last year we paid $7,500 for the season, and it didn't snow at all, but we still had to pay $7,500. So that's nice. They earn $7,500 for doing nothing. So think about things that people would need that you can either learn how to do or provide, right? Ideally on your schedule if you want to keep your full-time job. If not, you can think about whether you want to have a full-time job and the side hustle stuff, and then actually think beyond that. Like, actually, no, I think if I really want to be secure in my future and dictate my own destiny, I should turn this side hustle into something that replaces my full-time job. Like you can take on more and more clients for the side hustle to the point where you can say goodbye to working full-time for one customer, and you'll be set after that. That's the best way to ramp up without ever taking on any business loan debt. And then the other part for practical things that you can do is, it's a two-part equation. It goes beyond income. There's expense. So the expense side, you mentioned Dave Ramsey, right? So I'm pretty sure you already understand the expense side, which is, cut out all of your expenses to be as low as possible. But I feel like I have to mention it for people who are not familiar with that. You have to cut your expenses. The less debt you have, the better, especially for what's to come. Because once things get really bad, and things will get really bad, once there will be more runs on the bank, once the government or the banks decide to freeze your account to prevent even more bank runs from happening, once banks decide to go on holiday for an extended period so that you cannot access your money, and this is why I say you guys need to have cash, but you still need to pay your loans. Like there are people watching, you have to pay your credit card bill, you have to pay your auto loan, have to pay your student loan, have to pay your mortgage, right? Like with all these things you have to pay, you can't call them up and say, oh, hey, sorry, I couldn't make a payment this month because my bank froze my money as part of the bank run. It's just not gonna cut it, and the moment you miss a payment, you've messed up. All you need to do is miss one payment. During that time, it's going to be really difficult to get a loan to buy property, and property will, when this happens, the price of property is going to drop. Like, you can literally buy up the houses in your neighborhood for a nice discount. But the problem is, even though it's at a discounted price, do you have the means to buy it? And even if you do, if they run your credit report and they see, oh, you've missed this payment, missed that payment, you don't have good credit, you're not qualified to get this loan, right? So you're gonna miss out on getting good deals on buying real estate during that time. So that's why it's important to get your money out of the bank so that in case there are runs or your assets are frozen, you can still continue to pay out any monthly loan payments so that it doesn't affect your credit. And then, also if you do have debt, then it does make sense to go gazelle intense, have gazelle intensity with getting a part-time job and using that income to pay off all your debts. The most important thing is basically cut off all your expenses as low as possible and get out of debt right away. So yeah, I hope this suffices. If you still feel anxious, let me know, because what I'm doing is I'm building a bridge, right? So whoever comes to me, whoever has a question, my job is to build a bridge from where you are to where you need to go. And it's hard to, this is a loaded question about job security and you feel anxious, right? So like after this is addressed, then you'll be like, oh, but then what about this, right? So then there's a next step of the bridge that I have to build for where you're going. So don't be afraid to reach out so I can continue building the bridge, because other people can walk on the bridge that's built as well. So that's it for you. This is really long, but I hope this helped. And if you have any questions, guys, be sure to leave a comment below. If you want to stay in contact with me, again, we're gonna have censorship. I could be shadow banned on YouTube, so add me on Signal. Download the Signal app on your phone. The Signal app is end-to-end encrypted for all messages, so that means that the government cannot spy and read the messages between you and me. So add my personal cell phone number. It's 806-544-2929, and then I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye.